Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about how Ana Valens has just accidentally admitted to harassing Kirche according to the logic and argumentation of Ana Valens. Yes, this is very much an example of being hoisted by your own petard, but in order to explain why, allow me to provide some additional context first. Ana Valens, a quote journalist unquote, works for Vice, and has recently produced multiple hit piece articles talking about Kirche very specifically, accusing her of secretly being Mr. Hitler. Now this is of course part of the recent cancellation and harassment campaign being directed towards Kirche, which recently bore some fruit, what with crime boss Roche City recently dropping their sponsorship for her. As mentioned in a previous video, this led to a lot of people leaving negative reviews on the game, for very understandable reasons. Bending the knee to a cancel mob is something that companies should not do. Also unsurprisingly, this has led to people such as Ana Valens, who have taken part in the harassment campaign, to face their own criticism. Now, I will mention off the bat that I do not condone harassment. So simply put, do not harass these people. Fortunately though, what I have to talk about today is not an example of harassment, even though Ana Valens has tried to argue it as such. For you see, Ana Valens recently hosted a stream on Twitch. And to explain what happened, allow me to use the direct words of Ana Valens on Blue Sky, who stated, quote, many harassing Twitch usernames while I was streaming today, purposely following me while I was streaming, perhaps trying to get a reaction? Some absolutely beyond the pale. The obsession of these harassers is crazy. This problem must be dealt with in VTubing. Hashtag I stand with Ana Valens. So yes, individuals with some interesting usernames were following Ana Valens during the Twitch stream. And what damning harassing usernames were utilized during this harassment campaign? Well, they included such devious individuals as Donald Jesus Trump, Hipster Adolf loves Ana Valens, National Socialist for Ana Valens, and my personal favorite, Israel is right about Palestine. Now you can probably tell that none of these names actually constitute harassment. This is just an example of trolling, but there are a couple of takeaways here. Firstly, if this is the absolute pinnacle, the very worst that Ana Valens can provide, then Ana Valens simply is not facing harassment on Twitch. This is evidence that directly hurts the claims being made by Ana Valens. But that is just one factor, and the second thing to point out is how this argument leads to a hoisted by your own petard sort of situation. How this is Ana Valens ultimately admitting to harassing Kirche by the reasoning of Ana Valens. Because let's take one close look once again at some of the usernames. The only two that are in any way potentially critical of Ana Valens directly are Hipster Adolf loves Ana Valens and National Socialist for Ana Valens. In other words, it's apparently harassment to have a username that dares to imply that National Socialists support Ana Valens. But of course, if that is all it takes for something to be considered harassment, if all it takes is to imply that a person has Nazis that follow them or support their work, and aren't even necessarily associated with them directly, meaning that the person need not even be a Nazi themselves personally, if that still constitutes harassment by the standards of Ana Valens, then clearly so must directly calling a person a Nazi repeatedly in multiple news articles, the way that Ana Valens has done towards Kirche, more specifically as part of a coordinated cancellation attempt, with the very explicit goal of getting sponsors to drop their support of Kirche. In other words, if you're going to take up the position that Ana Valens took with regards to the Twitch usernames, then those standards are nothing compared to what Ana Valens has personally done to Kirche. In order for Ana Valens to not be a complete hypocrite in this situation, it would require a complete condemnation of any and all articles that falsely accuse people of being Nazis. It would require Ana Valens to push for an end to cancel culture altogether. But of course, this will not happen. Instead, Ana Valens will continue to engage in activities that Ana Valens has personally described as harassment campaigns. Or at least this will continue while media news organizations can still afford to keep people like Ana Valens on board. But of course, with the way the media industry is doing these days, that is an ever more finite amount of time. The day will absolutely come where we no longer have to worry about known abusers and harassers like Ana Valens, and that day cannot get here soon enough. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.